Hey guys, I'm David with Transparency Fitness Live, and today we're hanging out with Katie Conway. And introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, and we got some really cool stuff we're going to be talking about today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Super excited to be on here today. I actually am from Louisville, Kentucky. Grew up there. Was born in Lexington, so special place.
So you're still a Wildcats fan, then, right?
Oh, through and through.
Good thing.
Through and through. We were driving in, and I'm like, I feel better. I feel better. Now, I see the blue. I smell it.
Yes. I feel home. I feel like I'm at home again.
Right. So grew up in Louisville as a UK fan. Would not recommend, but, we made it. Went to UK for undergrad and graduate school. Got my bachelor's in kinesiology. It's just a big word for exercise science. And then also got a bachelor's in psychology. Decided to just pretty much combine those two degrees into a master's degree. Plus, I really had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. Still really don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
But you are grown up, so you might want to figure that one out.
I don't know. I mean, am I? I still kind of feel like halfway an adult, but it is what it is.
Just commit.
Yeah.
It gets better after you commit.
Okay. All right. Fine. But yeah, I was like, I don't know what to do. So let's just go to more school. We'll kill some time that way. So stayed at UK for an extra couple of years. Got my master's in sport and exercise psychology. Graduated in the midst of a global pandemic, like in the heart of the pandemic back in spring of 2020. So would not recommend doing that. But, here we are. Grinding it out. Yeah. And we made it. I survived. So we're good that way, I guess.
Did the schooling, did it make it a lot more difficult during the pandemic to get through the schooling?
Definitely.
Did you feel like it was adequate? As adequate as it would have been if you'd been able to, go into class and participate and interact with your peers and professors?
I think at that point, they hadn't figured it out yet. I went to Louisville for what I thought would be spring break and was told not to come back. But yeah, so that kind of sucked. And we started having class on Zoom when some of my professors hadn't even heard of Zoom. So learning and working out those kinks was definitely difficult. There's a lot of trial and error and a lot of just canceled classes as a result. Gave my graduate competencies.
Is there a lack of mental toughness out there during this time frame?
Big time. Yeah. Wish I could have educated everyone on mental toughness and how to exhibit some resilience in that one. But
the whole country needed you.
I like to think that everyone needs me, but
oh man.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't suggest doing that, but now we've definitely gotten to a point where I think everyone has gotten a little bit more comfortable with it. Now you say you want to have a call and it's pretty much all virtual. So
yeah. And I think people have also adjusted. So like this is no longer a change anymore. Like it's kind of somewhat of it's morphed into some of a lifestyle.
Yes.
And so once you get over the change and you've adjusted, it makes it easier. There's still some of us that would like to cut down on some of the mask everywhere. I'm sick and tired of not being able to breathe.
Oh my gosh, yes, you and me too. I actually read an article just the other day on the inefficiency of breathing as a result of masks, which sounds obvious, but how that affects your posture. And
interesting.
Yeah, it can even add to some muscle fatigue and muscle soreness. I mean, this is where I'm going to go super nerdy really quickly, but we're breathing from our
dive down the rabbit hole with you.
Oh yeah, we're diving. We're breathing from our chest because we really can't engage that diaphragm. So eliminating the diaphragm from our breath pattern, we're starting to almost protect that chest, starting to round that upper back, that C lumbar, and it's causing a lot of postural issues, which I thought was interesting, and I
guess I would have never thought of it that way.
Right? Yeah.
I just would have I blame phones. I would say that actually probably causes more of an issue, that same exact issue that you're talking about, than the mask. If we had the mask or not, I'd still say the phones are trumping it overall.
Agreed.
But for I guess you could say for the senior citizens,
yeah,
they're not using the phones.
Right.
They're still doing the flip phone thing, and that's tough enough for some of them.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But yeah, I would have never thought about that. I think there's a lot of things about masks that that would just make life easier if we didn't have to wear them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have spent way too much to even admit in facials to eliminate the mask need and get back to normal.
You can't even like communicate with people properly.
You really
like
can't.
If I can't see your face, I really can't fully communicate. I guess for those of us that are old enough to know how to interact with another human being and not be on our phone and actually look at their face when you're talking to them.
Facial expressions are huge.
They're extremely important.
I mean, I show everything that I'm feeling on my face. Sometimes that's to my own detriment, but
this is why they don't invite you to poker night. And actually, this is why they do invite you to poker night.
Yes, because I'm always the loser. Like
we're gonna get her money for sure.
Right.
Let's invite Katie.
That being said, I can also be that like cuttingly, stickingly sweet. So I can pretend. I can say that it's not an issue, but you look at me and it's an issue. But yeah, no, facial expressions are huge. I mean, I defended 6 years of education and I didn't see people's faces. It fucking sucked. Like I couldn't, what are they thinking?
Well, again, the kind of the profession you're going in, and we haven't really dove too far into it, is helping people overcome mental challenges.
Yes.
So, which I think is something that honestly, I've never really thought of it in the way that you do it.
Yeah.
And thought of it as like, there's more than one piece to when you're training, and I've just never thought about it. Just like you either have it or you don't. But I mean, you're probably right that you can like really help people overcome these and learn how to have better mental toughness.
Absolutely.
And it's extremely important.
Yeah.
And I'd say for a high-end athlete, that extra edge is everything for them, right?
No doubt. I mean, cliche as it sounds, it's what separates the good from the great, right? When we're talking about these factors of performance, I like to say that there are 4 main pieces.
Okay.
First, you've got the technical factor, right? Like learning the whatever it is that you're doing, the what.
Just being skilled at that
Yes.
modality, if
Yes.
it's soccer, basketball, running, whatever. Just being skilled at
absolutely.
that in general. Okay.
Yes. Then you've got the technical aspect, that technical factor, and that's the how you're going to do it, right? What strategy? So let's say basketball, you're learning the skills. You're learning how to dribble, how to shoot a free throw, yada, yada. Okay, how are we going to put that together and develop a technique, develop a strategy, create that playbook, right? Got it. So then we got very obvious physical factor of performance. What are we doing physically to prepare? How much physical exertion are we giving during that performance?
Right.
And then the overlooked piece, that mental factor, is so important. Your emotional, cognitive response to any given situation, right? I think a lot of people hear sports psychology or they hear mental and they immediately think like mental health, mental wellness, maybe even mental disorders, and that's so not what we're talking about
it could be something as small as another guy just taunting you all night. He's getting in your head, and you've taught this player, hey, this is how we ignore him. This is how we don't, because that does happen. Things like that happen at that level where you have to be able to turn things off, or you miss five basketball shots in a row, and it's like now you're in the slump where if mentally you can just stay on track, you'll get back.
Yeah. How do you make the conscious decision to say, you know what, I messed up. Maybe I messed up multiple times, but I'm going to stay resilient. I'm going to stay psychologically flexible when plan A doesn't work. I'm going to go to B, C, D, yada, yada. And I'm going to push through the hard shit. I'm going to stay enduring and really flex that mind muscle. So, when we talk about mental toughness, nobody really knows how to describe it. So I just break it down into how flexible are you mentally when things don't work. I mean, COVID's a perfect example. So many of us were psychologically inflexible. We didn't know how to do something else because up to that point, we had been so primed, so conditioned to just live life the way that we were used to.
Well, right, because, we're a creature of habit, and I'll tell you right now, when I stick to my habits throughout the week, I feel more sound and grounded.
Yeah.
However, the times that I develop the most in life is when I would say that I put myself into a chaotic situation, and it's probably because I'm trying to grow my business or I'm doing something like like when I threw the podcast into my daily routine, I'm like, okay, well, now we're going to add a podcast.
Yeah.
All of a sudden that shook up my routine and I had to adjust. And then when I got comfortable with that, it's just adding more and slowly, for me, it's just slowly growing. But yeah, I love my routine. So you just all of a sudden my routine was gone. Like, oh, you can't go to work.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you want to go to work, you just can't go to work.
Mm-hmm. Mental toughness for me is the ability to be comfortable and resilient in the midst of discomfort.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, do you work mostly with athletes, or do you kind of do a little bit of both? Like just someone that's just in general just having problems with a mental block in everyday life?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I like to say that these are very simple skills, but they're not easy, and they're applicable to everyone. Okay. Right? They're life skills when it boils down to it. It's not just reserved for these elite level athletes. So primarily, I actually work with tactical populations. I work with leaders in the United States Army.
What is like military?
Yes.
That's what you mean by tactical population.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like my 9 to 5. And outside of that, I work in private practice with.
Do you find that more that, I guess, civilian versus military is one seem to be better prepared than the other? Because I feel like when I went through boot camp and I did my 4 years in the Navy, for the most part, I feel like that helped prepare. That made me more mentally tough.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it made people, I think, overly mentally tough to where they would be like they would push themselves past what is safe or healthy.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and this is totally personal opinion here.
Yeah, of course.
I would say that it gives them this persona of being mentally tough because they are physically tough. Yet I've found athletes to be significantly more mentally tough, to stick with that language, significantly more adaptable, resilient, enduring, because a lot of these tactical populations, and, I'm only familiar with the United States Army, right, but the individuals that I work with, they're so narrow-minded because they are stuck in what's comfortable for them. And they think, I'm forcing myself out of my physical comfort zone, so I'm good there, right? But they're not willing to challenge themselves mentally. They're not willing to even be vulnerable. And vulnerability is uncomfortable, right? So this tough facade.
Well, you can't be vulnerable in the military because if you are, people will tear you to pieces.
Exactly.
Like literally, like if you
physically, literally.
Yeah, if
yes.
you show any kind of weakness or vulnerability amongst your peers, they will utilize that against you. And I've seen it happen. I mean, I think it probably happened to just about everybody in the military at one point in time where you got picked on for something really stupid. So yeah, I could totally see not wanting to give up vulnerability because it can make a bad day.
Right, but you have to be vulnerable to welcome that change, that development, right? So I think
is that building that trust then? Because where they can be like, okay, I can be vulnerable with you, but then I don't have to be vulnerable outside of here. So at least I'm getting some help through my vulnerability with you. Because I feel like, I mean, I do that with just my fitness clients.
Yes.
I work for a retirement home for a few hours. And one of the main things I do is I teach their class and they want me to help train their clients. Mm-hmm. And I find that I've got more clients by just making the class more and more fun. And then people finally get comfortable with me. And they're like, okay, he's new, but now I'm adjusted to him. I'm comfortable with him. He seems like a nice guy. Maybe I'm up for talking about working on one-on-one with them now.
Right.
Because they've gotten adjusted to me.
Yeah, no doubt. Unfortunately, maybe I'll have 4 hours with these people. And
just like a one session, 4 hours?
Yeah. I'll be teaching a class.
Oh, so there'll be multiple people.
Upwards of 90 to 100 sometimes. I mean, I taught yesterday and it was a small class and there were 60 of them in there.
Can they digest enough from a class versus like, 1-on-5 or 1-on-1 or something like that? Because everybody's different, right?
Everybody's super different, but we only are given so much time.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it's all about how it breaks down the military's going to pay, and if we get into the financial and all that kind of details.
Right.
But in a perfect world, you would want to do a lot of one-on-one sessions,
yes. Right? Yeah, because, groupthink comes in and they see this 25, 26-year-old blonde girl that has no military experience, much less has ever been boots on the ground. And they're like, who is this hoity-toity chick trying to tell me that I'm not mentally tough? Right. And that's not necessarily what I'm saying, but just...
Well, there's also a different stigma with men, military, and women than you get in the everyday.
Yes.
Military men are, their views on women are not as progressive as you would want them to be.
Right.
At least in my experience.
Right. So they see this teeny bopper girl that has no idea what she's talking about. So, to kind of go back to your ultimate question, I have actually found athletes in it, and if we're defining mental toughness through these three components, adaptability, resilience, and endurance, I've found athletes and exercisers to be significantly more mentally tough via these three components than those in the tactical population, no doubt.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but in addition to that, I work with athletes of all ages, competition levels, ranging from youth, elite. Like, I have a kiddo that's 9, and he's my absolute buddy. Love him to death. All the way up to, professional athletes locally in Louisville. So, a little bit of this, that, and everything. Starting to get into the bikini and bodybuilding competitors, and that's a whole different ball game. Super challenging.
I feel like some of those people may be at that above average mental toughness.
No doubt.
And so that you're somehow being like, oh, you want that 0.000001 extra mental? Okay, yeah, we're gonna find it.
Yeah, so that's challenging for me, and I love a good challenge. I've got that winning mentality. I have to beat every challenge. So for me, it's kind of fun.
I'll obsess on it till I figure it out. Right?
Exactly.
It's like a puzzle. So.
Yes, puzzle. Oh, love it. I mean, I hate puzzles, but I love them.
Right. No, they are. Puzzles are fun. At the seniors, the retirement home, they do so many puzzles.
Oh God, I can't.
And the other day I was walking. I was leaving for the day. And one of the ladies, it's amazing coffee. Counterculture, love your coffee. I pretty much talk about them on every podcast because it's so good. But I was walking, this lady was having trouble with her puzzles. She as I was walking by, she looked at me and she pointed and she yelled, "Stop! Help me now!"
Oh my God, I love it.
And I stopped and found 3 pieces for her and then moved on.
That's amazing.
And she was so happy because it got her going again.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it so much.
So also, I guess another question would be: do you find that athletes practice the mental toughness more than the military? Because I guess going back to any kind of skill set, anything that we're trying to get better at, I don't care what it is, practice does make perfect.
No doubt.
And so I'm sure these skills that you are teaching are things that can be practiced on a daily basis or something we can think about. And so the more that we do it and the more that we get comfortable with it.
Yes.
And I guess that maybe goes back to athlete being more open to just doing it on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. Due to them, I would say an athlete, I think, practice that more. Do you see that helps or?
It really depends on buy-in. It gives the term non-essential and essential a whole different meaning, in my opinion, right? Because in sports, in the military environment, this is still somewhat woo-woo science, right? Everybody is kind of like, oh, here comes the positive psychology people trying to tell us that.
So you just feel like we're in such an infancy of the knowledge base of what the correct method is. And right now, where it's maybe more trial and error than anything till we get some more scientific, or I guess grounded scientific information.
Well, not even that. I think the scientific information is there. The research, the data, it's all there, but it's still such a new field versus athletic training.
So is it just people grasping on and accepting it is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
So it exists. We just need to accept it and try to implement it more.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, athletic trainers have been on members of support staff, physical therapists, sport orthopeds. All of these people have been strength and conditioning coaches. They've been support staff for so long, right? Now, sport and exercise psychology individuals are trying to get in as support staff, and we don't quite yet have that buy-in. So quite frankly, I really think it comes from the leaders, whether that be the higher-ups in the echelon, whether that be the head or other support staff coaches, really just getting that buy-in from the athletes and from the people that are boots on the ground. That's what's really important for me, because if we can get that, then that breaks down a wall from
well,
the
it sounds like this position that that you're kind of creating and working towards may not necessarily fully exist in that market yet, to where, I'm sure they didn't have PTs on staff right at the beginning,
at
right?
some point, yeah.
And at some point, someone's like, "Oh, we need this person on staff because our players are going to perform better." And I bet you now, in the last 5 to 10 years, they probably started bringing yoga onto staff,
100%,
because a lot of athletes have started to do yoga. So mental toughness coach, and I don't know, would that be like the proper title? What would you want it to be called once it exists in the world?
Right.
Officially?
So there are a few different things, and actually it does exist, right?
Okay, so
it does exist.
Just not widely used at the moment.
Yes.
Okay.
Because right now, from a sport perspective, sport organizations want to spend as little money as possible, right? So they're thinking, I don't want someone that can only do performance enhancement psychology. I want someone that can also be a clinical psychologist.
So they want multi-talented.
Yeah. So they want someone with a PhD that can diagnose and treat psychological disorders and say, oh, but also maybe once a quarter, you're going to meet with all of the athletes and teach them on positive self-talk and how to use it productively. So that's
But
where
that's only a small percentage of their knowledge base, or what they're using it for, where it's 100% of
right.
what you're going after.
Right. And if I were to make things easy for myself, I would get licensed as a clinical psychologist, but it is the last thing that I want to do. I'm too much of an empath. I don't want to deal with other people's emotions because I'm still trying to filter through my own shit sometimes. So, and that's where I've set that line in the sand. I've drawn that line, and I'm not willing to cross it because I know what I'm passionate about,
right.
And it's not clinical psychology.
Right, so you know exactly what you want to do, and you're not going to back down.
Nope.
You'll find, it's working at right now, right? You're making enough money to pay the bills, so
right.
Something's going right.
I think that's something that has to happen. Somebody at some point has to say, you know what, this is bullshit, that there's not enough strictly performance psychology people in the world, or, whatever it is that your craft is. So I'm going to be that change. I'm going to be that pioneer. Realistically, the way that I got into what I'm doing now, I was juggling a few different jobs right out of grad school. I was a waitress. I taught group fitness classes very early in the morning. I taught exercise science classes at Bellarmine University in Louisville during the day. So between waking up and coaching group fitness at sometimes 5, 6 a.m. I'd wake up at like 3:34. I'd go teach undergrad level classes during the day, and then I was a waitress at Drake's. I waitressed at Drake's until sometimes 1 in the morning. I was getting I needed this coffee.
Spreading yourself very thin.
Definitely, but I also worked for free.
Right. And the idea is we spread ourselves thin early on so that we can get more done and make more money.
Yes.
Down the line, right?
Yeah. I worked a lot of hours for free in performance psychology consulting, and just started DMing a lot of people on LinkedIn and Instagram, and was like, hey,
that's what I do.
Here's
I get people on the podcast. I just start DMing random people, be like, hey, you want to be on the podcast? You want to come talk?
Piques enough of an interest that at the very least you're going to get a phone call.
Oh yeah. Most people are very open to talking about themselves for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And I'm very open to listening for a couple hours.
I'm glad.
I'm already learning so much here. So for the people out there listening?
Yeah.
What are some things, some common issues that you see that happen more often than not, and how do you tackle those issues? So I guess people can get an idea of kind of the method behind it. Yeah. We've been talking about mental toughness, but we haven't really dove into like what exactly you do and how do you do it, and like what kind of results you're trying to get at, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. So everyone's absolute favorite response is it depends. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. That being said, we all talk shit about ourselves and about 100%. Our environment, right?
I try to be positive, but sometimes I'll catch myself thinking about a negative situation that hasn't even happened yet.
Yes.
And I'm like, this isn't even a negative. Why am I thinking as if it is?
It takes such a toll on your motivation, on the way that you perceive a situation, your emotional response, yada, yada. So I pretty much always start with that cognitive awareness. Thoughts drive emotions. Emotions drive your behaviors. So let's say you are telling yourself that you're nervous, whether or not you are making a conscious decision to tell yourself that you're nervous, that you're worried. It's going to make you feel anxious. It's going to make you feel self-conscious. It's going to make you doubt yourself. And then maybe something that you've practiced, you've rehearsed a million times, you're going to start fumbling your words. Or you're going to start making mistakes on, like, take an athlete, for instance. You're going to make mistakes on something that you've never messed up before, right? So I always start with that cognitive awareness. We think as human beings, anywhere between 80 and 120,000 thoughts a day. That's crazy, right? We are only consciously aware of about 6,000. It's wild. 90% of those are repetitive in nature, and about 85% are negative in nature. And negative thoughts, they can be productive. Negative thoughts occur to protect us, like don't jump off the cliff, don't walk into that fire, right? Yet that negative, repetitive, most times subconscious thought is going to make you feel some type of way. Okay. And that emotion is going to make you behave in some type of way. And eventually, you're writing a really shitty story.
So there's kind of a process that you take people through.
Yes.
We had to do something like that in our fitness class. Where,
I love it.
Is there a company out there that has a program with a book, and it's all about it took us through a whole thing on positive affirmation for yourself. Yes. And it made us, like, some of the work that we'd have to do is it would have like something where we'd fill in like positive answers to like questions and stuff like that. I can't think, but there's a company out there that they have this whole thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
And this sounds very similar to what you do, but I bet you have your own little custom like way of doing it, which they try to make theirs more broad. And so some of it didn't really connect well with me because I was kind of like, this doesn't really, I don't have this issue or this, where someone like you, you kind of, you can identify things.
Well, and that's the thing too, you have to consider what might work for you, might not work for me.
Right.
Like, to me, words of affirmation, love language. Positive affirmation, it is really productive for me. I don't really like to focus on positivity versus negativity of thought. I work in tactical populations. Like, these military people love to be told that they suck, right? They love to be told that they're not going hard enough, going fast enough. So that motivates them. So I
did not like to be told that.
I mean, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't. But, realistically, I focus on the productivity of thought.
Right.
Is that negative thought productive for you? Is it motivating? Is it going to elicit a productive emotion like that drive, that challenge winning mindset? Right. Maybe you respond to something a little bit more neutral in nature, like something that is grounded in technique to just orient yourself. I work with a swimmer that competed in Olympic trials, and in the pool, she just repeated over and over again, shoulders and hips, shoulders and hips, shoulders and hips, shoulders and hips.
So you identify these things, and if you're able to go one-on-one with somebody, then you're really able to, everyone's a little bit different in the way that they respond to that toughness or respond to having more mental toughness.
Absolutely.
I've never thought about it. Yeah, so it's anything from saying something to doing something to thinking something.
Yeah.
And it's figuring out, So what are some of your biggest challenges that you've had, that, if you can talk about them?
Yeah.
I know you can't throw names out or anything,
right.
But if some of your biggest challenges that you've run into that have been difficult to overcome, or you maybe not overcome and found a way around it.
Okay. So I'll say those specifically, the bikini competitors, those women and the bodybuilding competitors, those men and women are so emotionally, physically, mentally taxed. And I would even venture to say more so than the military, which is wild, more so than some of these professional athletes and collegiate athletes that I'm working with. They are put under so much distress, and they have to put themselves under this level of distress. It's not someone else putting them under that stress, which I think is...
Oh, yeah, we definitely will get down, like, we'll definitely, like... Well, it's something like you're working 12 hours a day. You just got yelled at for something that really wasn't your fault, that somebody but other person made a mistake for. So you're stressed out about that.
Right.
You've been going for 12 hours. You somehow missed... I mean, this is serious stuff that happened to me. I missed a meal, so... It's been 16 hours since I've eaten.
Oh, gosh.
I got to go take a shower. All of a sudden, water's cold.
Oh.
And so, like, like especially when you're on deployment, it's very hard to get out from under that because your life is stress.
Right.
And the military was the worst part is when we were in deployment. I was on an aircraft carrier and we sat in the Gulf and would drop bombs, I think in Afghanistan at the time. But again, it's just like your whole life is stress, and then you get out and like how do I not feel stressed? Or like how do I deal with not being stressed?
Yes.
Because that's what's driven me for the last 4 years or 8 years.
Absolutely. So that was what I was going to say next. So that first most challenging situation is the individuals that choose to put themselves under that level of stress versus an external factor is putting them under that level of stress. So whether that be their leader, their coach, just the circumstances, etc. So like those. So
that's something you look to identify early with your athletes. It's like, is there someone close to them, mom and dad, or a coach or somebody that's maybe doing more harm than help?
Right. Yeah.
So how do you take a mom and dad out of the situation? Because I feel like that would be the biggest one that causes stress,
look,
right?
I work with some youth elite athletes that are like, I don't know, like anywhere between my kiddo that's 9 all the way up to until they turn 18, right? Technically, as a practitioner, I have to, unless these adolescents have power of attorney over themselves, which none of them that I've ran into have that, right?
I would say not.
They've never gotten
They're
that.
not letting no 13-year-old run their life.
Right. So legally, right, as a practitioner, I am obligated to share with the parents if they were to ask me. But I set that standard from the very beginning. I mean, in private practice, I'm able to say, I don't want to work with you. I want to work with you. So when I have that initial consultation with the parent, I say, you will not be involved in the situation. And you can know how, I'll tell you if she is progressing and at the rate that they are progressing, just because you're the one paying the bill.
Right.
However, I'm not going to go back and tell you everything. Same deal with the coaches.
I'm not going to let you tell me what to tell my kid using me as a vessel to get what you want out of the kid.
Exactly. So I set that standard and expectation from the get-go. I'm like, you're not going to be involved in this process. Unless there have been a couple of extenuating instances where the child is almost too young for me to get the full story, or they won't give me the full story.
So mom and dad need to be
having that context is a little bit easier because
Do you work with a lot of kids?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
How? Man, I got all kinds of questions now. Well, because this is a different generation, right? They, my perception of these kids that are in the ages of, like, let's say 10 to 20 is they don't communicate well.
No.
And when they do, they're just constantly all over the place. They can't focus. I mean, I thought I was bad at that age, but I think this is worse.
Anything less than 13 is really difficult because just the maturity level, right? The level of development has yet to occur.
Do you think that's what's caused? Do you think the internet and the way our society is causing our adolescents to not mature as fast or properly?
Oh, no doubt.
Okay.
No doubt. And quite frankly, to be significantly less resilient.
Oh, yeah. I 110% believe that the kids of today's are way softer than than I was
like
at their
bullshit
age.
Participation trophies. No,
I'm not a big fan of that.
If you got beat, you got beat.
Yeah,
like that's how you learn. That's how you grow.
But see, I think it just goes back to there are these competitive people and these uncompetitive people, and these uncompetitive people do not like the vice versa.
Right.
And we as competitive people do tend to push uncompetitive people around because we want to be competitive.
Right.
So I can see where they're coming from, but at the same time,
I
don't believe in the participation.
I also
whatsoever.
will say this as someone that is on the cusp. I'm not quite a millennial, but I'm also not quite a Gen Zer. That being said, I think I'm just like an anomaly in my generation. Period. Right. This idea of instant gratification that you don't have to work for the ultimate goal. Like,
I also want to know why you haven't liked the Instagram story I just posted. I didn't get my gratification. How can you not do a podcast and I want that instant.
Right.
You're right. The instant gratification is ridiculous.
Yeah. So they're so used to having that at their fingertips. And don't get me wrong, I grew up with technology. I did. Like, I'm not suggesting that I didn't. However, I still believe that in order to achieve something, you have to work your ass off. And sometimes you have to do that and you don't want to. And sometimes it's not fair that somebody else got something quicker and it sucks and it fucking sucks. But guess what? If you want it, you have to keep working for it and you have to keep pushing for it.
That mindset is, well, I think it's easier to make money than ever too, though. In the aspect of not like you just said, you have to work hard for it, right? Yeah. There is this larger percentage of younger people that have found a way to make money off the internet and do nothing. Oh my God,
yeah.
So I think the way that we perceive things and the way our parents perceive things and working hard, like my parents didn't think I worked that hard growing up. They're like, you're not working that hard. And I'm like, I'm working my butt off. Yeah. All my buddies are like have dead end jobs and I'm over here trying to build a business.
Yes.
And to them, it was like, you need to have a 9-to-5, you need to build, And so my generation, we're more open to
a little bit different.
We're open to, but this next generation now,
they don't
want to leave
the
house. They don't want to leave the house. And there are some that have found a way to make money. So gratification for them that they can sit on their computer all day and make money. And I think I would do it for all of like 2 months. Then I would be like, no, like you better be paying me a lot more money because I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could just sit in a room and talk to people all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think back, I could have easily taken the easy path of least resistance, graduating grad school. I could have just taken unemployment money and moved back in with my parents.
Right. But if you want to be the best of the best at whatever you're doing, you have to work.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the best streamer, you better be streaming, 14 hours a day and have content planned out and keep people entertained. Now that's when that becomes a hustle.
Right.
But you got some of these, again, going back to like, I've seen this happen on Twitch where some kids just playing some game and somebody just donates $20,000 to them. And then it's like, they just been gratified that,
yeah.
I've been working for all of 3 days of my life trying to start this stream and I've got $20,000.
Right. I think about some of these people that are like getting paid to just go places and write reviews. And I'm like, I consider myself a food and beverage connoisseur. Yeah. Hello. I mean, pay me to go somewhere.
So I have a book on that. And this book, literally, and I can't think the name of it. I'll look it up and I'll have Keenan pop it up on the screen. But this book literally shows you how to become an influencer with about $5,000 and build yourself a $100,000 business.
See, I think I would.
But see, he's saying, and I agree with him, that you're committing fraud in the way that he tells you how to build it. Because what you're doing is you're pretty much you're paying someone to build. So you pay someone to put followers on there. You pay someone for comments. You pay someone for likes, so that when you spend about $5,000 and all of a sudden you go from like a nobody to somebody really big on Instagram. And then you start getting all these people to give you stuff and give you money because they think they're gonna make money off of it. And really, it's all fake followers, fake likes, fake comments. Because he even says what you do is you pay some Chinese company like $500 to give you like 10,000 comments. He says if you want to do it right, you sit down and write all 10,000 comments yourself. So he's like, you got to put a hustle in. Yeah. But he says you spend about $5,000 in a month, and he actually did it on his book. And the whole book, he had two of the same accounts. He put money into one account and put just no money into the other account. And by the end of the book, he technically could have made money off the account that he put money. And he shows you how to do it. Oh, it's crazy. Huh. So half the people that are influencers fake their way into it, and now they are. I mean, they've gotten there. They fake their way till they make it, right? Yeah. And then once you're there, I'm sure real people start following you because you're teaming up with big brands, and Right. But this whole thing is like he's just like half the people on Instagram got started by pretty much, in his opinion, committing fraud.
Wow, interesting. Super random and unrelated to our conversation, but related to what you were just saying. Did you watch the Netflix docuseries on Anna Delvey?
No, who's that?
Oh, it's like this girl that super fraud. I mean, yeah, she's from Russia.
Okay.
Pretended to be from, I don't know, somewhere else like Germany, Belgium, something like that. Came to America. This is all I have obtained my information via the Netflix docuseries.
Hey, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Go on.
And now it's a really big deal. She actually just got deported, I think. Yeah, I mean, this happened like 6 years ago, maybe.
So what did she do to commit fraud?
Basically, she just like pretends to be this heiress and lies about who she is and lies about who her parents are, and people.
It's fake. It's making up a life that doesn't exist.
And then always said that she would like wire money for what she owed, but I mean, she racked up like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bills at hotels and restaurants in New York City. Like, had investors investing in this Anna Delvey Foundation and had nothing to really back it on.
So think about if she'd actually tried to build a legitimate business,
right?
Like, because to me, sometimes
I'm like, you could have channeled all of that energy into something real.
Yeah, I just feel like that sometimes the people that are breaking the law actually are spending more time and more effort into breaking the law than if they had just done it legally, almost.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, granted, you don't get the money as fast, or but if you have the brains to come up with that, you have the brains to come up with something equally valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So sorry to give us off topic, but
no, you're totally fine. We've kind of been all over the place today.
I love it. I'm here for it.
Exactly. So what a lot of the kids, as far as kids go, what is their mental toughness? Like, what is their wall a lot of times?
So the younger kids are very malleable. That being said, a lot of times I can't get super in depth with what I'm teaching them just because they don't understand it. Right?
Okay.
They're young. They don't
so
really.
There's just a level of comprehension.
Competence. Yeah.
Competence.
They're confident and they're ready to go, but the amount of understanding isn't really there. But they want to listen to me at, Miss Katie, what do I do now? Like,
well, kids love to please too.
Right. So they're really into it. It's that like 13 to 19 where I'm like, you suck. What are you doing? Like, I know that you understand. You're choosing not to.
Oh, 100%.
So
you didn't do that when you were 13 through 19 at some point in time?
100%. I did. 100%. My parents, my older siblings.
My poor parents is all I can say during my high school years.
Yeah. I'm like,
they were so happy when I left for the military, I'm sure.
If they could, yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I definitely can understand. Like, I can empathize with them a little bit more. I will tell you, professional athletes, they're a little harder to get that buy-in as well because they're professional and they're like, well, I'm a pro, so I've gotten this far, which I understand.
So they're not super open-minded sometimes.
Sometimes no. My favorite
okay.
are collegiate athletes and the young kids. Collegiate athletes are like, this is my make it or break it time. If I bust my ass now and I develop myself now, then I can get to the pros. That's a possibility.
There's still hope.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much. They're like, I'll do anything to keep that hope alive.
Exactly. Whereas the high school students, they're kind of like just your cliche high schoolers, and they're like, I don't give a rat's ass about what it is you're trying to tell me. My mom says that I have to come here today.
So when you get a good high schooler, you're just like, yes.
Oh my God, yes.
Let's develop.
When I get a high schooler that's like bought in, I'm like, all right, you have no idea the shit that we're about to get into, and I'm super excited. And then at first I'm like, okay, I gotta check myself. I'm a little too excited here about their growth and development.
I mean, you were a little too excited coming in on this podcast. I'm like, shit, I gotta up this energy because she is coming in hot.
I'm that girl that wakes up and probably doesn't really need coffee.
You give energy to coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee comes to you to get its caffeine.
Yes, if you're not a morning person and you're around me in the morning, I'm sorry.
See, I'm a whatever person thanks to the military. Like if I need to be up at 1 a.m., I can be. Doesn't mean I necessarily want to, but I never have a problem like being up when I need to be up, even if I don't have enough sleep. I was like, all right, I just got to go.
Yeah.
I already committed to it. Like, I really just never thought your job existed. Like, it totally makes sense. I would have thought your job existed, like you said, where someone that has multi-skills, where, but I never would have thought one-on-one. But yeah, I mean, I could see this being kind of an industry standard at some point in time down the line.
Yeah, so I actually, I have certification as a certified mental performance consultant,
So there's a certification in that.
Yes.
Do you need a degree or can you get a certification?
You need a master's in sports psychology in order
to even
sit for the test.
Okay.
Yeah. So I earned certification back right after graduating with my master's in June of 2020, and it's through the Association of Applied Sports Psychology. So one of less than 1,000, although I think we're close to 1,000 people now. So that's kind of a bummer. At one point, I was like, oh. At one point, I also was the youngest CMPC, and that was kind of badass. Now we've got like some 24-year-olds that, I mean, I was 24 when I got it. Now I was 22.
Someone always beats you. I mean, I the YMCA here, I held all the records at one point in time back in the early 2000s for swimming, and then younger and faster people showed up.
I know. Well, at least now I'm able to say I'm one of still 1,000. I was one of the first 900 at one point. That's youngest.
Pretty cool.
Still one of the youngest. Yada yada.
Because I think there's another whole level of mental toughness that automatically comes when you have like a group of people working together. No doubt. Yeah. Like everyone already gets mental toughness points just for showing up and like participating in the group. Because when you, especially people that show up on a regular basis, they get to know each other and it's like intimate. They push each other without even knowing that they're actually getting stronger mentally because of just like, Sally's here today, let's go. And not even realize it.
It is no different than being on a team.
Yeah.
No different.
It's just sad that we have to teach it. Like people should just instinctively just have it.
I agree.
But maybe that's the difference between people like you that help and people that don't, is because you do have it and some people just may not have as much of it.
Yeah. And you know, I always say the bottom line is that it's not something that you're born with or you're not. You develop it through your experiences, through the conscious decision to grow and develop it, to nurture.
I guess it matures in its own way because
absolutely.
If you live the life of hanging out in a room and never being challenged for anything and that's all you've known, you may not have mental toughness. But if you spent your whole life trying to survive on the streets and finally start a business or something and make, like you're going to be a much mentally tougher person because life has been more mentally tougher for you too.
Yes.
Right? I'd say that just plays a part. I
guess. Absolutely. So your experience definitely like sets you up for how much you have, but then deciding to be mentally tough, deciding to be adaptable, deciding to be resilient, that in and of itself, you can start flexing and building that muscle. So it's not like you either have it or you don't, or, oh, you've not had a bad life, I've had a bad life, so I'm more mentally tough. No, this person that has had white picket fence, seemingly perfect life may have just made a conscious decision to be open to new experiences and to put herself or himself in a vulnerable situation, right? So it's a little bit different. I always say, it's what Kobe Bryant literally teaches. It's his legacy. You want to talk about
mental toughness?
Yeah, it's the Mamba mentality. Yeah. That is his legacy, right? So it's not just something that you have. It's something that you develop and you work for, and it's a way of living, not a tangible trait.
Right. So you had a eating disorder when you were younger.
I did. And
I feel like that probably had something to do with your current mental toughness in today's world, or setting yourself up for where you're at now.
I would agree. Yeah.
So I guess I was going to let you kind of talk about it since you were so comfortable in letting us dive down this rabbit hole.
Absolutely.
Because I believe that, this hopefully, if anybody's out there listening, maybe this will help them out here.
Yeah. I always say that if my discomfort can help one individual just be a little bit more comfort, right? My vulnerability can allow them to be just a little bit more comfortable and willing to make that change, then I'm going to do it. But yeah, so I'll just kind of rewind 8 years. I had really, really bad anorexia, and it was bad. I never went a day without eating, and I'll very honestly say that, but I was just very strategic. I mean, there were days where I was running 11, 12 miles and maybe would eat 400 to 600 calories. And now I'm thinking that, and I'm like, that's a snack. I think about it.
That's not even much of a snack.
Yeah, right? I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but for me, it wasn't even about how I looked. I wasn't striving to be smaller. I actually hated the way that I looked as I got smaller. And you can even look back if somebody's that interested. I wore a lot of baggy clothes because I didn't want to show off the fact that I was smaller. So it definitely wasn't, body dysmorphia. It plays a role in some people's eating disorder journey and experience and even recovery journey, but it definitely did not play a role in mine. It was more of a means of control. And I'll say, as someone that had that cliche white picket fence, perfect life, it's almost this unspoken expectation that you shouldn't feel bad. Like, you shouldn't be sad or upset or angry. And I held a lot of anger. I held a lot of sadness. My biological father, not in the picture, has not been in the picture for half of my life, was not a good guy. And I held on to that. And I really didn't know how to express it because I had this great life.
Right.
And the way that I...
Right, so you were like, I shouldn't feel bad about this, or I shouldn't be frustrated about this, because overall my life's pretty cushy compared to someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I was your cliche perfect girl. We had this family. Everyone loves each other. The man that I've known as my dad is a sent from God. He's so great. My mom, my absolute best friend, my siblings, we all got along, still do. They're awesome. Went to a private Catholic high school in Louisville, Kentucky. I was a 2-sport varsity athlete. I was an ambassador, international baccalaureate, diploma student. Like, I was that cliche perfect girl on student government.
Sounds like you might have felt a little overwhelmed too.
Yeah. And here I am. I have all of these unproductive emotions going on in my head, and I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to let that imperfection show, because I am a recovering perfectionist. And at that point, not even recovering, I was a perfectionist.
Right.
So the way that I coped with that, I couldn't control what was going on in my brain, but I could sure as hell control how much I exercised and how little I ate. And that's what I did. That's how I coped with it. That's how I dealt with it. That's how I put myself back in the driver's seat and in that situation of control. Flash forward. Oh my God, words.
Tell me about it.
You're right.
It's too much coffee.
Gets real bad to the point where my school administrators said, you can't come back to school. You just can't. You can't come back to school.
Because you weren't healthy enough?
Because I wasn't healthy enough. I mean, right now I'm like 5.
So is this during all your high school years, right?
Yeah, not my freshman year, not even really my sophomore year. It got bad about halfway through junior year.
Okay.
And then senior year in February. And that's when they were like, hey, you're not allowed to come back unless you're medically cleared by a doctor. So, at my lowest known, I was 94 pounds. And I'm 5'8". So that, I was small. And that was just my lowest known weight. Basically, I begged my primary care physician to let me do it all outpatient. And he, against his best judgment, let me do it. Because at that point, I had fooled eating disorder specialist. I know how to pretend like I'm eating shit, and I wasn't, right? I'm smarter than you. This is a game for me. That's what it was.
Calories in, calories out. Can't lie that, though.
Yeah, it was a game. So I was like, give me just one more shot. One more shot. I promise this one's going to be different. And he gave it to me. And for the next not even 2 months, I ate 7 times a day. And I had ice cream 3 times a day, and it was...
Do you think you finally got comfortable with eating again? Like, mentally, you're just like, okay, I'm...
No. And when you're in the weight gaining stage, right, you're not comfortable eating. Like, it is a chore. It is terrible. So
you were forcing yourself to do it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I gained 45 pounds. So you hadn't
mentally gotten over it yet?
Yeah. I gained about 45 pounds in, less than 60 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It was nuts. It was so hard. And God bless my mom. There would be some days where I would be eating ice cream for the 3rd time, and I would just be in tears because my body had adapted to so little food that I was physically ill.
No, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Anytime I try to bulk or put on muscle, I have to eat 3,000 to 4,000 calories, and it's like I want to. There are times I have thrown up at the end of the night because I put so much food in my body.
Yes.
That it's like, sorry, we can't process all this.
Right.
It's coming back up.
However, it was something that I knew I had to do.
Right.
And if I wanted to live the life that I had dreamt of and go to college and have a family someday and have a career and honestly, like, be the badass that I envisioned of myself, then I needed to put in the work then. So I did that physical work, and it wasn't until I finished the physical work that I started doing the mental work, because at that point you could only do so much, right? And at this, I also am still all the while all of these things in high school. Like, I still am managing my normal life while also balancing physical recovery.
Were you just eating a lot at school, like doing snacks throughout classes and stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I was very open about it with my teachers, with my fellow students, and I am grateful that no one really judged me for it.
That probably helped a lot.
Quite frankly, I was revered, and I will say, being in an all-girl context there was really helpful, because I never had that worry, like, oh, what are the boys gonna think? It was just, I'm doing this, and
aren't you more worried about what other girls think?
I mean, yes and no. I almost felt like empowered by them, because it was kind of it's so corny, but it was like a little mini sorority there. Well, a big sorority, I guess.
Okay.
They all were just so supportive of me and pushed me to be better. So my mom had even kind of enlisted a couple of people at school to keep an eye on me, to make sure that I was eating my mid-morning snack, my lunch, my afternoon snack, and all of that stuff. So I still to this day think that I am alive because of a few people.
Right.
I am alive because of my mom and two girls in particular that I went to high school with. And they are the individuals that I can thank for that.
You still keep up with them?
Absolutely.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome. Actually, one of them is getting married at the end of the summer, and it's just crazy to think that, like, we're at this stage in our lives.
Right.
So,
you made it.
Yeah, I know. So, I get to college, and everything is, honestly, it's easier, it's better, but I still have to make the decision not to let that unproductive thought get the best of me.
Right.
And fight that and challenge it. And I always say that, here I am 8 years later. I always say that you're not recovered. You never recover from this, but you are always in recovery. And the external challenges that life throws at you challenge that recovery journey, because you have to start dealing with other emotions. And I would be lying if I said that the post-college weight gain wasn't hard. That
Were you used to it by then? By the time you were going into college, it was a little bit more of a habit?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But then, like, let's say when I graduated undergrad and started, just living the life of a 21-year-old, I'm like, oh, I can get like tacos and margaritas on a Tuesday. Yeah, let's do that. Now I have this little thing that I like to call my Tito's and tater tot tummy. And like I have to make the conscious decision to be okay with that, right? To say, you know what, like, I could be way smaller, but I'm not going to, because I value my life and the way that I live my life that much more.
And I push healthiness.
Yeah.
So if you're a little overweight, or you have a little bit more than you like, but you feel healthy and you feel good, then it's probably okay.
Absolutely.
That's why a lot of people that are overweight, I worry about them because they're not healthy. But they could just be a little overweight or within their range with a little bit of work.
Yeah.
So, I'm not pushing like 6-pack abs for everybody, but I am pushing, let's make our body feel better. Let's be healthier.
Oh, 100%.
Honestly, that probably makes people more mentally healthy too.
It does. And
because they feel better about themselves.
And more capable of being mentally tough.
Yeah.
Because they're able to be adaptable. I mean, I wasn't at all adaptable when I was experiencing that. If something like we talked about comfort zones and being in that routine. If the slightest thing messed up that routine, oh my God, everything fell apart for me. Now, if I am at the end of my week and I've had 5 really hard workouts, but I had planned on that 6th one, and my body is like, Katie, you've lifted some really heavy shit today or this week. You're tired. Give it a rest day. I allow myself that rest day. And for me, I think that's more psychologically flexible. That is
David Goggins would be very disappointed with you.
I know.
Goggins would be like, you know what? Just for that thought, you have to work out. You have to work out the 7th day as well, just for even having the thought.
Right. Well, I don't know. I
agree with that 100%.
Yeah, being flexible is allowing for that as well.
Well, listening to your body is extremely important, but also listening to your body does not mean, oh, I don't feel like working out today. Oh, I don't feel like working out today.
Agreed.
There's a difference from like my body needs a break and there's what, I've even had days where I've taken a break mentally. Like I just mentally walked into the gym and I'm like, I'm not here today.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that as long as it's not something that I'm doing 5 times
all
a month.
The time.
Yeah.
Right.
That might be something that happens once, twice every couple months.
Exactly. No doubt. And I think, that's where that fine line exists. Right. And to me, being healthy, being well is understanding that line.
And you're committed to probably working out the rest of your life, right?
Oh, no doubt.
So if you miss a day here and there, is it really going to get in the way of your lifelong goal?
Agreed.
No, not
Agreed.
at all.
It makes me feel so empowered now. Like I love it. And I will genuinely say that there is nothing that makes me feel stronger than working out and doing so because I make the conscious decision to do so.
Oh yeah.
Not because I'm like, I have to because of my eating disorder. I have to, but as silly as it sounds, knowing that I get to and that I'm going to be a fucking rock star while I do it makes you feel so good.
It does.
Makes you feel so good.
But also when you get in your little ruts, and I mean, at least I do throughout the year at certain point in times, I just fight through it. Because there are times mentally or physically, there's taking 1, maybe 2 days off. But when it's going to the 3rd day, then it's probably something a little bit more than just mentally or physically, And so that's when you've got to be like, all right, well, I'm still not there, but I've taken the time to let my body rest.
Yes.
So I'm just going to have to work through this.
You just got to do it.
And usually I'll just get right back out of it.
Within 5-10 minutes, you feel better.
Oh, working out. But just as a whole, usually when I get in these ruts, I'll fill them for like a week or 2. And I don't know what it is. I'll just, fill off.
Yeah.
But I just keep doing my routine or keep doing the things that I know. Unless there's something specific I know that's causing it, then I kind of cut that out or find a way to get around it. But yeah, I still push through because I know when I come back out, I'm going to be happy that I didn't take 2 weeks off from the gym just because I was off or,
I'll say I definitely resonate with that right now. I can definitely empathize, because I'm having a really bad hip knee flare up. So back in 2019, I actually was diagnosed with stress fractures in my femoral neck and in my anterior iliac crest. So I had...
Is that a genetic thing or something you did earlier on in your life?
So, they actually think that the way that my pelvis naturally rotates kind of set me up for this.
So genetically speaking, over time, wear and tear, this is more likely to happen than you than somebody else.
My right glute, I guess, wasn't firing whenever I was engaging in anything. So it's just put like pound for 19 to, I don't know.
I mean, so you haven't been firing your glute for...
I guess it was closer to like 23 years. Yeah. Right. So, and that's kind of...
It took it probably, all of a month to get it to fire?
Yeah.
With good PT work, I mean, once you got it going, it's...
Right. But initially I pushed through it. I pushed through that pain because I was like, oh, it's soreness. Soreness. I'll be fine. And finally I go to the doctor and they're like, let's get an x-ray. And then they're like, let's get an MRI. And we find that I have these fractures. And they're like, here's a wheelchair. And I was like, hell no. At this point, I was in grad school. I was not
I've overcome too many things to end up in this chair.
Exactly.
Right now.
I was like, I'm not. No. Not even when my heart was at 29 beats per minute because of my eating disorder did I get in a wheelchair. You're not putting me in that thing now. So
that's athletic. You must be one hell of an athlete.
No, the cardiologist was like, is she breathing?
Yes. How are you alive?
Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
Would not
that's
recommend.
Really low.
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary. But yeah, I mean this stress fracture, it was God, it was also scary. So I was on crutches. I did all of the things that nobody wants to do, as I still consider myself an athlete, right? So as an athlete, going to PT, swimming. Oh my God, I hate swimming in a pool. I wish I
love it.
I know you do. Natalie, Lindsay, they all talked about it, and I'm
I think a lot. Well, yeah, I think we all might have swam
in
high school and college.
I don't like it.
So much fun.
I don't like to be wet, and I don't like to be
I don't
cold.
like running.
Yeah, see, that's where we're.
I'd rather swim all day.
Yeah, I mean,
running.
we could make a really good triathlon team.
Yes, we could.
Because I taught indoor cycling.
Natalie
we can do
could run. You could do the bike.
I mean,
and then I could do the swim.
Let's go.
Actually, Lindsay's probably in better shape than me, so you probably want her to do the swim right now. If I had a couple months to get in shape, maybe I could beat her, but she'd probably kick my butt in the water right now.
Look, kudos to them. I don't think I could.
I did a mini triathlon a couple years ago. Now I will let you know I did not, or a sprint. I think it's called a sprint. And I didn't train. I just did it.
That's wild.
Because I was like, well, it was 400 in the pool, which is nothing. Like 400 is for someone that doesn't like
400 yards.
400 meters, I think.
What?
It's 25 meters there. There and back's 50.
Okay.
So that's 50 meters. Yards are usually the full.
Got it.
Full 50 yard. Oh, is it 50 meters? Am I saying it backwards? Is it 25 yards?
I was gonna say, I think
because 25 yards. It's been so
phone.
long. I should know this because it's like it was my whole childhood.
So I'm thinking that's what, like 80 laps.
Well, no,
there and back.
There and back is a 50 if you're doing 25.
Okay, so that'd be
a 20. So there's a 25. So there and back's 50.
So that'd be 8 of those.
Yeah, 8.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it took me like, I think 6 minutes.
I don't want to
something like that.
admit how long that would take me, but
it's not as bad as you think. Yeah. So I actually placed like 5th for that out of overall.
That's amazing.
But then I did the 20 mile. I think it was 18 or 20 mile bike. I've never done 18 or 20 miles recently, like at this time.
Right.
So that was I was really sore after that because I
sure.
just was not prepared for that.
I'm sure.
And then I did the 3 mile, the 5K.
Yeah.
And there was a 5K, and I think I hadn't run a 5K in like 6 months.
Oh God.
So I have this. There's a picture of me and my belly's just sticking out, and I just look like I'm gonna die as I'm coming in on the finish line. Because I'm just like, what? How did I let someone? There's a buddy of mine talk me into it. I could do it right now without practice and actually be able to handle it a lot better because I'm overall because I work out. At that point in time, I wasn't like I was working out 2 or 3 times a week maybe, and it was like lifting.
Yeah.
The stuff I do now is a lot of HIIT and like CrossFit style stuff.
Love HIIT.
Yeah.
Love
I have my own format I put together where it's a combination of CrossFit activities that I absolutely love that I think are safe.
Yeah.
Now there's a few like the clean where I may go over some instruction with new people.
No doubt.
But even then I just give them a 30-pound bar and I'm like, you would literally have to throw yourself back into the wall to like injure yourself.
Yeah, you literally have to hurt yourself.
This is so light that this is just a way for you to practice, and then once we get comfortable with that, we'll give you heavier weight.
Yeah.
And so it's called Sunday Fun Day if you ever want to come down.
Okay.
But I've got a template, and it's usually 13. I think it's 13 different exercises. So you have 3 cardio exercises, 2 leg exercises, shoulder, back, arm,
I love it.
leg. I already said leg. 1 dynamic, 1 full body, 2 core, and 2 body weight.
Awesome.
And then it's all rep counts.
Yeah.
So you'll end up doing like 500 or 600 reps.
Oh, okay.
In about 45 minutes to an hour.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So mainly you just go as hard as you can.
Yeah.
Nonstop till you complete it, which is usually about 45 minutes to an hour. And it's especially if you I have some people that come just to do one. It's so good that they can do this once a week and stay in better condition. Like they notice the difference in conditioning if they do or don't do it.
HIIT is huge. I coach at F45 in Louisville, and
is that where you do your instructing?
Yes.
You do your teaching? Yeah.
Yeah, and it is high intensity interval training. It is functional, hence the F, and it is 45 minutes long. And subtracting the time that you spend in the warm up, even the amount of time spent in work, maybe 35 minutes, right? Max.
Do you come up? Do you make your own?
No.
Do they already have pre-made?
That's what's awesome.
See, we make ours every week.
So F45 internationally creates the workout of
the
day.
They already, and then you just coach people.
And we coach it. We educate.
Do you do the full class every day?
I don't do, not when I'm coaching. When you're coaching, you're not doing it, which I will say was a welcome surprised because when
I do one and be like, that's all I'm doing today, guys.
When I taught cycle bar, I mean, you're up on the podium.
I didn't realize. Did you work with Lindsay?
I did.
Okay, I did not.
Yeah.
That's how you. Okay.
Yeah.
I should know this. But
during grad school.
I didn't realize you guys worked together. Okay.
Yeah. And I actually taught in Louisville.
I just thought all the beautiful and strong and athletic women all just get together in Louisville and Lexington, and somehow I've just found the inner circle and slowly interviewing each and every one of you.
It's a special club. Yeah. No, and it's funny because Natalie actually now coaches at F45 in North Carolina. She texted me and was like, I'm into this. Can I take your class in Louisville?
I forgot she moved.
Yeah.
Because she actually, I think she was in town.
She was in town.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I really like about F45 is, I mean, it's like balls to the wall,
right?
High intensity interval training. And even on the strength training days, the nature of the exercises, the way that they're compiled, and the time spent working and the time spent resting, your heart rate doesn't drop.
So what is their overall goal from their
functional?
So their biggest thing is functional.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get like swole. You're not going to go in and experience a lot of hypertrophy realistically. It's going to be lean muscle mass. You can get pretty strong. I will say, like, I've definitely increased in my muscle mass.
Well, and I think that's kind of the difference from some of the HIIT stuff to CrossFit is like CrossFit they'll do some of the same movements, but they'll do the movements with like 30-40% more weight because they're trying to do a HIIT workout but then grow muscle on top of it,
right?
Which is really difficult but can be done.
Yeah, definitely can be done if.
But also, this is why you see so many injuries in
if
CrossFit.
Done safely.
And that's the problem. There's this fine line, and it's figuring out what it is and making sure. And that's why I like HIIT, because like you said, it's functional. A lot of body weight. I'm guessing a lot of like 15 pounds or less weight when you're doing.
Yes and no, because so the way that they set it up, and like I said, this is like an international thing, right? You've got Monday as cardio. You've got Wednesday as cardio. You've got Friday as a strength hybrid. So it is like strength training movements, but done in cardio increments. So you're going to be working for like 45 seconds and maybe you get 10 seconds of rest, but you're doing kettlebell cleans. And then Saturday, you're going to have a true hybrid. It's going to be 50% cardio, 50% strength training. And that actually is an hour-long class. And then all the other days, so Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, are strength training. You might have a little bit more rest there, so you can go heavier. I'll say my deadlift, my Romanian deadlift, my squat, everything has gotten
What do you squat with, kettlebells or dumbbells?
No, with bars, with barbells.
Oh, you guys have bar? Okay.
Yeah.
How big are the classes?
Anywhere between, I think, a max of 27 all the way up to max of 36, depending on how many stations and the nature of the exercises.
So I guess there's like 5 or 6 barbells set up then?
Yeah.
If you cycle, I'm guessing you do 2 or 3 stations. And then
usually we have actually, I know at our studio, usually we have like sometimes upwards of 8, just so you can account for all of the different. Is that the weather? Yeah. That's definitely the weather right now.
Oh my God. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but like we're literally in the middle of this conversation. It's April in Kentucky, and it's just decided to have the crappiest. Well, we've got like we have sleet, snow, rain. We have like ice, hail.
There was hail yesterday.
Yeah. We have like 5 different things going on right now. So both of us were just talking, and we're just like, is someone making a noise over there, or did it just get really nasty sounding outside?
Like a cliche rain machine. Weird. But yeah, anything from, 1 10-pound plate on each side all the way up to over 100 pounds on a barbell. So it's really cool because there's people of all backgrounds.
So that's why I like HIIT or my version of HIIT and CrossFit kind of split and HIIT in general is because it can be modified for anybody. Like for us, a modification a lot of times is if you can't, like something like a pull-up. Yeah. There's some people even assisted, they're just not physically able to do it. So those people I just take it off the board for them. And then there may be you may have to do, let's say, 20 squats with 20-pound dumbbell. Well, guess what? You can't hold the 20-pound dumbbell, and you can only comfortably do 10. So, okay, no dumbbell, and you do half the amount of squats everybody else has to. Because it's all about challenging you, yourself. It's not about challenging.
Relative.
You're not. It's competitive in a way, but at the end of the day, it's really competitive with yourself.
Yes.
So, at the end of the day, if I went for 45 minutes as hard as I possibly could, and you did the same exact thing, but did 1/3 the amount of work, as far as what I got done in my 45 minutes, doesn't mean that you got a less workout.
Agreed. And that's exactly what I say when I'm coaching, right? Like it doesn't matter what your neighbor is doing. It doesn't even matter what you did last week.
Done, it's done.
Yeah. Yeah. But
so good.
For me, effort is everything, and maybe your max effort today looks different than what it did a week ago. Maybe it looks different than what it will look like 1 week from now, a month from now, whatever. But step one, you got your ass in that door and doing the workout. So you've already won. Why would you not give your max effort, right? Yeah. I love
do you help people like right there in the class get over mental just quick that you can tell that they're like oh, they're not here today, and you're like, hold on, let me go up that mental toughness on them real
absolutely
quick.
I don't go in their face, right? That being said, I do strategically say things accordingly.
When I teach a class, if someone's not doing something right, I don't call them out. I'll just repeat how to properly do the exercise. And after like the second or third time I repeat it, they're like, oh, yeah.
I will say in comparison to some of the other coaches, and no right or wrong way, but I sometimes will talk the whole time, because for me, knowing that someone else in the room is there to support you is so huge.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I try to offer that. I'm constantly adjusting form. I'm constantly reminding of form. Form is huge. I'm a form junkie.
Great.
And I think that
you and I could be best friends.
I think sometimes I'm a little too much. I'm like, want to give them the science behind everything. But
it sounds like you gotta have a philosophy like mine. So as you know, my business is called Transparency Fitness.
Yeah.
And so the whole concept is that I don't want to be just your coach. I want to be your teacher.
Yes.
So I actually, in theory, want to graduate my clients. Like, I want them to be with me. And of course, if that's what it is, they just need the stability of like paying me and me showing up and working out with them or whatever it is, then we can do that. But I've already had one client, a buddy of mine, a couple years younger than me, in decent shape, but he spent, I think, 6 months with me, and we went through 3 different programs. Okay. And I taught him a strength program, a hypertrophy program, and an endurance program.
Nice. Where
it was all strength-based, or it was all barbell and dumbbell-based, but it was we did 12-week programs, how they affect your body if you do just these type of workouts. And then I pretty much I kept telling him, man, like, you can leave me whenever you want. You know what you need to. And this year he's got like a bunch of stuff he's got to take care of for the house. And so he's like, you're not in the budget. I'm like, you don't need me, man.
Yeah.
You're graduated.
Yeah.
And now he's just turned into a buddy that I just like, he just gets invited to work out whenever I'm doing stuff. I'm just like, because he's now at like, I guess he can keep up with me at my level. So we're able to lift together a lot.
Awesome.
So that we're on the same kind of like playing field. Because he hasn't stopped. He's been
That's
since
amazing.
I started with him, he was already in decent shape. But anyway, so that's the whole concept though. And I think you kind of have the same idea.
Yes.
It's like if you're willing to learn, I am not trying to hold anything back. Like, I will teach you why. If you want to ask me, why do you have me do these exercises? And I do have clients that do that. And I'll explain to them. And I think sometimes they don't expect an explanation.
When I'm working with my mental performance clients, I want to be done with you eventually. Like, maybe we'll check in ever so often, but eventually I want you to go and do the damn thing. Yeah, definitely. I also am, I think, similar to you in the sense that everything is holistic, right? I noted those 4 factors of a performance.
Right.
Those are always changing. And some days you might have to be a little bit more mentally tough. Some days you might have to be just more physically tough. It's going to change, right? And then the environment is going to ask a little bit something else of you. Balance is bullshit. Balance is a bullshit word, right? It doesn't exist. Balance doesn't exist. It's like a scale. It's a tipping scale. Yeah. And how are you going to account for what is more important that day?
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
So that's what I try and tell my clients, the people at the gym, like.
So if they get stuck on something like a word like balance, and like, I need balance in my life, I need balance, and you're like, actually, let's look at it from a different angle.
Yeah, balance doesn't.
Like,
what's
for me, balance doesn't exist, and this is why. Do you see where I'm coming from? And then maybe if they can get over that tiny little hurdle, for some reason, it seems so big, but once they get rid of that word and they look at it differently, like, okay, I got this.
Yeah.
I mean, because sometimes it is. It's just.
What's important now, right? I follow the win attitude. What's important now? So balance doesn't exist if you're following that mindset.
How long have you been doing the HIIT workout?
That has been since July of 2020. So we're coming up on 2 years, which seems wild.
And how do you think something like the class helps people with mental toughness, and just in general? I mean, for me, when I've done classes in the past, it's like I look forward to going and seeing like a lot of these people outside of maybe we'll have like a go to the bar night kind of thing. But outside of that, I just see these people at class, and that's my interaction with them.
Right.
They become, if I'm in a class 5 times a week and it's an hour class, guess what? I'm seeing these people 5 hours a week, which is more than I'm seeing.
Well, the thing is it goes back to vulnerability, right? If you're coming into a class like that, quite frankly, exercising is vulnerable. You're putting your body in a vulnerable state, and in order to progress, you have to try something scary. You have to be a
do
little
something you can't do, right?
uncomfortable.
Or haven't been able to do before, because that's progression.
Yeah. So in order to progress, you have to be a little bit vulnerable. So being vulnerable with strangers is so powerful. It is so insane, right? And that's where you develop.
I also feel like they don't stay strangers long. If within a week, you can really open up to somebody, because maybe it's because everyone's being vulnerable together.
Exactly. Yeah, they're like, oh my God, wow, they're doing it right beside me.
Right.
So
and they're performing at my level too.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that means a lot for some people to be able to, like, if you get someone like me and I'm used to more HIIT workouts and I practice it more, and you see me flying through it, that can be kind of a turn off.
A motivation.
Right. Or a turn. It can go either way. But then if you see someone that's at your level going as hard as they can, and you're going as hard as you can at that same level, maybe it could go either way. It could be motivation, or, and that's
a good point.
Yeah. So I always try to be very positive in those classes. High fives.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. It's a family.
I got yelled at one time. Well, not really yelled, but I got told by one of the owners that there's like an Orange Leaf kind of, Orange Theory or whatever it's called kind of place, that I was too hyper during the class, high-fiving.
That doesn't exist.
And a week later, the partner, the other guy bought him out because he didn't like him.
Oh, yeah.
Not the guy that said something to me.
Okay.
And then I was like, next time I saw the instructor, I apologized. And he goes, what? Because this guy he was the partner, had overheard me, but he wasn't the instructor.
Oh.
And I apologized to the instructor next week when I saw him. I was like, hey, man, so-and-so pulled me aside. He told me I was way too hyper during the class. And he looked at me and he goes, I need more out of you.
The limit does not exist.
Yeah,
no.
And he's like, by the way, so-and-so isn't with the other owner bought him out, so we had some other issues with him. So apparently maybe he had said stuff to other people, and I'm like, because that, to me, someone walks up and gives me an energetic high five,
you're like,
I'm rolling with that.
Hell yeah,
I'm rolling with that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, and the people that take my classes, tried and true, a lot of times I will coach class and then I'll take it by myself. So I will be like pounding pre-workout as I'm coaching, and it'll start to kick in, and then I'm like, oh,
you're crazy for doing pre-workout. I cannot handle it.
Let's go. And it's almost like, all right, whoa, but it brings a different level of energy.
It does. You like pre-workout? I can't do it.
Sometimes, yeah. It depends on the time of day. It depends on, it's all very, dependent on the circumstances.
Have you ever tried to take just beta-alanine, which is, one of the main ingredients of pre-workout?
So, I don't take the kind that, makes you feel a little jittery and, makes your skin tingle. That shit scares me. I don't like it.
That's what so the stuff that makes your shit tingle, that stuff is beta-alanine.
Oh, no, I don't like it.
It's really uncomfortable for, the first 5 minutes.
Mm-mm.
But I genuinely believe it helps with performance.
I'm sure.
But I get I don't like all the other stuff in pre-workout.
Yeah.
And beta-alanine is one of the main ingredients, so I just get the beta. So when it hits me, I'm just like, and then 5 minutes later, I'm good. It does feel weird.
I don't like the tingling sensation, so I actually get the non-stimulant.
Okay.
I don't even know.
But it's the beta-alanine that helps with the performance.
I'm sure it does. I don't know. Maybe it's just in my head because
No, it is uncomfortable. It is not in your head. I do not like it either. But once I get past that, 5 minutes, because the first couple times I start, if I'm doing bench or something, I start lifting, I can feel all that tingling, and it's really annoying. And then it weighs off, and I can usually hit bigger numbers though.
Usually, I will say the pre-workout, it's once in a blue moon. It's maybe once every other month.
Sometimes I just use coffee.
Yeah, same. Oh, coffee, like it's all I need.
That's all I need. Exactly. It's just enough stimulant.
Yes, yeah. And I have to be careful how much I use of that. I'm a big water drinker. I just drink lots of water. I think water is our number one way to be energized.
I shoot for 100 to 100. I shoot for a gallon to a little bit over 100 ounces a day.
I see. I'm a psycho. You won't even, like, when I tell you this, you're probably going to be like, you are peeing out so much. I am so thirsty all the time, and we've, like, done all these tests, and we've just found that I just need significantly more water than everyone else. I drink, like, about 168 ounces a day.
Really?
Yeah. I have this water bottle.
For a female your size, that seems like 100. Like, I tell most females around your size, 64 to 90 is like what ideally where you want to be at.
Right. Everybody's like half your body weight, and everyone is like, you're literally dehydrating yourself. And we've actually ran tests and everything. Like, is there a reason that I'm more thirsty?
But
for a
there's
period
no
of
health.
time.
There's no. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, like my nutrient levels are fine. My electrolyte levels are fine. I actually need. We've tried to see what it would be like if I like scaled that water back and drank between the 60 to 100 ounces.
Do you feel like horrible?
Awful.
So you feel dehydrated?
Yeah.
Even though you've
like my skin starts to crack.
So your body just consumes more water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On a really like dehydrated day, I might be drinking like 120.
So I guess you just constantly have to drink then.
Yeah.
Or like the second you start feeling bad, you just, as soon as you get water in you, does you feel feel the difference?
I feel much better. Yeah. Upon waking, I try to drink it like 32 ounces right there, just so I can wake myself up.
Well, I had to go to the ER like a month ago because I think I had food poisoning or something, and I got dehydrated, and I remember they put an IV in me, and when they put the second IV in me, all of a sudden I went from like feeling like I couldn't talk to somebody, being like, oh, like I still don't want to talk, but I could feel like my cognition all of a sudden, like I was like, oh, I have critical. I didn't have critical thinking skills there for a minute. I was just so miserable, and I didn't realize that as soon as I got those fluids in me, all that, like I felt crappy, but then all of a sudden I was like, okay, at least I can use my brain again.
Right.
And I didn't realize how bad my brain was operating till.
Man, oh my gosh! Now you're getting into like nerd Katie status. This is where I could talk forever. Like my niche, because my background is exercise science.
Right.
My passion is how the physical factor of performance interplays with the mental and cognitive factor of performance. Like that, they play on each other.
They have to.
Oh my God, yes. And
bad mental day, bad physical day.
And everyone is like trying to silo these two realms, and they're not.
You have to find that equilibrium there.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say balance, since we've already admitted balance doesn't exist. But you do have to find whatever. Okay, you have to find what that balance means to you.
Yes.
So maybe not an actual balance, but what that balance is. But yeah, because there are days that you don't want to, you physically can't push through, and mentally you're there, but you're like, or vice versa. And so when both things are firing properly, I mean.
You're powerful.
You are so powerful.
Force. Yeah. And I mean, it's like as simple as how you can, we'll go back to breathing, how you can re-engage your diaphragm so that you can send more oxygen to your brain and think clearer.
Right.
Like.
There's science behind having more oxygen in your blood levels and drinking water and like things like that we don't do. Like small things like that we don't do on a daily basis.
Yes.
That really could affect our overall cognition.
And how eating well and taking care of your body and your nutritional piece, right?
And that's everyone's hardest part.
Impact. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, if I eliminated some of the not so good snacks, I would say I'm not 80-20. I would say I'm like 75-25. I'm a little bit less than that 80-20.
I'd say on average I'm 60-40.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay.
Well, yeah. I think there is a thing. I do believe you can outwork your workout to a certain extent. You can't grow as easy. You may not have a 6-pack abs. Like you do have the 6-pack, but it may not be cut up like that.
Yeah.
But you really can like eat somewhat crappy, and as long as you work out hard enough. At least for me, I don't really gain or lose. Like I may gain a little bit of muscle over time, but I'm not going to become overly fat, even if I had multiple sugar nights.
It's also too how you think about it.
But
like, are you gonna allow yourself to feel guilty about engaging in that 40% of fun, right? Because if you feel guilty about it, guess what? Your body is going
If you're a bodybuilder, then yeah, you should feel guilty as hell. But if you're just an everyday person that's just like, I just want to be healthy, and like you said, that 40% adds enjoyment to the life, that the amount of enjoyment taken away, if I up it to like, let's say 80-90 or 80-20, right? Then all of a sudden my life isn't as enjoyable. So where is that balance for you?
Well, and what I was saying too is like that mental state plays a role in it. If you're restricting so much, right, and not allowing for that full 40%, then you might not hit your goals as much. This is where like
because you're mentally closed off because you're just not as happy.
Yes, and vice versa. Like you're affording yourself this
too much, and now you're feeling guilty.
Well, maybe perceivingly too much, but if you're feeling guilty, then your body is going to be like, I shouldn't be doing that. I am going to hold on to it so that I don't do it. Right. And this is where like it gets kind of woo-woo science, and I want to do all of this research, and I'm a super nerd. But if you just say, hey, you know what? I had a lot of fun with my girlfriends, and it's okay. Then your body actually knows, like, that's okay. I don't need to hold on to this because she's going to let me do it again sometime. Like it's this idea of like your body understands when you're not going to let it have fun, or when you're not going to let it do what your mind wants to do, all this stuff. Mind-body connection, it's huge.
So are you slowly diving into all of that, I guess? Or is that something that you've been diving into for a while?
I've been diving into it for quite some time.
So sometimes we could do a whole podcast just on this.
Oh my God, yes. I super nerd, closet nerd. Those that know me, it's definitely not closeted, but I have so many ideas that I want to bring into the realm of exercise and wellness and fitness. Like,
well, I think it's time to write down some ideas and let's like plan another podcast.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
Oh man, well, thanks for coming on, Katie. It's been a blast, and it's really interesting just looking at fitness from, I guess, really a non-physical point and more of a mental point, which I guess you think about, but I've never really broken it down and been like, how can this really truly affect my future goals and achievements, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mental fitness is huge.
You got any shout-outs? Got anything you want to say before we finish up here?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, I realistically am not like doing anything on my Instagram other than my own personal fun. So if you're interested in seeing what I do for workouts and what I do for fun, then definitely you can give me a follow. I spell Katie kind of funny. It's Kaite, Conway, Conway. No spaces, no periods. But if I could at least pique some people's interest in this idea of mental toughness and mental fitness, then I'm glad to do it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. And guys, we'll catch you next time.